What's up, fish tube? Well, Bearded Bob coming back at you. I'm just going to go through what I usually dose for fertilizers. So, number one is going to be this Thrive all-in-one shrimp specific, so Thrive S. That I dose to all my tanks, and it shows you on the back how much to dose. I think it's 1 pump for 5 gallons. There you go, 1 pump per 5 gallons. 1 to 3 times a week. I do about a half dose every day, and then after on Sundays usually, because most of these are on auto water change, I'll dose a full. The other one I do is I go between potassium and iron, and I have bigger bottles of the iron. I just grabbed this one because it was right in front. But so I don't use these on the same day, and I know this is an all-in-one fertilizer, but I have a lot of plants in here that like iron, so they've got a lot of red in them, like these guys here. I've also got some nice red plants, red and pink kind of thing. So I do dose potassium one day, and then the next day I'll dose iron. So I'll do a half dose of this, 1 dose of that, and then next day a half dose of this, 1 dose of that. The other one I use is Flourish Excel. I know there's a lot of controversy and people don't like to use it or whatever, but I do. I don't see any ill effects. It does control my algae, which is awesome. So I dose this just the normal dose. I think it's 1 cap full, which is 5 milliliters per 50 gallons, and that's every day. I dose that. And what I did was I went online and on Amazon, and I found some. These are 3 ml pipettes. That's the biggest I could find. I couldn't find 5s. So obviously fill it up to 3 once, and then fill it up to 2 for this 55 gallon. That's what I do. 50 gallons for the 55 gallon, or 50. I dose per 50 gallons for this 55. And why? Because I've got a ton of hardscape in here. I've got like 4 inches of soil. So, you know, there's not 55 gallons worth of water in here. I know they probably recommend this, you know, knowing that you have hardscape in your aquarium and all that stuff, but that's what I do. No ill effects. As you can see, thriving shrimp populations in all of my tanks now. So I dose this, said Sundays, full dose, every other day, a half dose. And why do I do that? I don't know. That's just what I've been doing. So, and it's been working for the most part. Everything seems to be doing very well in my tanks. I also run these Beamswork full spectrum lights, and I don't have any issues. As you can see, you know, full growth. The red plants, very red, growing very well. The fish, very red, or fish, shrimp. So that's what I'm doing. These Hydras are, I don't know, one of these is supposed to be a red plant, but they're all pretty green, and they're growing right up to the surface, and I'm still not getting any red coloration, so I don't know. They're probably just both a type of green Hydra. Anyway, so that's that. I'll show you how I dose this really easy pump bottle. So, take the lid off here, shake it up a little bit, and then just so a 5. This one would take 11 normally, so I do 5 most weekdays. On this one, same thing. This one's harder to do because this giant lid, but you get the point there. So 4, a normal dose in here would be 8. It blends in pretty well. You can see it looks pretty yellow going into here, but it doesn't taint my water. I haven't noticed any discoloration after it gets kind of flushed around, gets into the plants and whatnot, into the filters. These ones, so I've just got I got a couple of small Java ferns down there. One stem of what the heck is that? Hornwort, and then I've got one little piece of Ludwigia repens in there. So I dose 1 pump. That's a 20-gallon tall. I'll dose 1 pump, you know, a couple times a week. I don't do it every day on that one. Same thing with this one. There's not a lot in this aquarium yet. We've got some guppies kind of growing out, some males in there. We got 3 stems of Ludwigia, some moss, some Java fern, and again some some whatever that is. hornwort. This one I dose normal because this thing is pretty well planted. I mean, all these plants are still up and coming, so it is what it is there. I like to dose heavy. I know I've got the auto water change. I check my nitrates every other day. I just use test strips. I know that's a bad word, but I've got the kit. You know, I've got the big kit of all the other stuff to check, and GH and KH and all that stuff is in there too. And I do use that if I'm really trying to dial stuff in. But for the most part, day to day, I check temperature. Every other day I check, you know, I dip an easy strip in there. And I like these because this bottle from Amazon is cheaper than you can find it anywhere else. It's 100. And the other thing you can do with these, they're pretty wide. Let's see if I can show you on here. My camera mount broke, so it is what it is. Let's see. All right, there we go. So checking for nitrates and stuff, and nitrites. This one doesn't check for ammonia, but I've got the strips for ammonia too. But I just get in here and cut this strip directly in half. Be careful not to cut too shallow on one side and too deep on the other. But there you go. So 100 test strips turned into 200 just by doing a tiny bit of work. Totally worth it. They still totally work. I don't have any issues. So I'll just show you real quick. Here's test strip. Going in. Pull it out. Let it sit 30 seconds. And you can watch, you know, see how much nitrates, if you have any. Check your pH generally. You know, you're not going to be able to dial it in with these test strips. Check for chlorines to make sure, because this is a drip directly from my faucet, and I've got carbon block filters. So if I ever did notice the fish acting funny, this would be the first thing I did, was dip this in there, check for nitrites, dip another one for ammonia. I've got this here, same thing there, cut these in half. There's just one pad on the end of it. And then you can check. So there we go, there's our, oops, sorry about that. There's our nitrates. I know this is well below 40 parts per million. That's where I like to keep it usually. I don't like to get it any higher than 40 parts per million. It usually stays around 20, and I believe this is going to be right around 20. There's a thing you can check on here. I cut the piece off so I could read it easier, but you get the point there. And at 20 parts per million, I've never had any issues. At 40 parts per million, I've never had any issues. I've never gone higher than that. I haven't needed to. Like I said, with the auto water change, it changes out all the nitrates anyways, so this one down here gets a little bit more nitrates, and I don't dose fertilizer as much, but there's a ton of fish in there, and I've got the auto water change on that one too. So this hornwort in there just sucks up any extras. It grows really fast, so it really takes the nitrogen out of the water column there. This one just finished cycling. This is my Caridina tank. I don't have any Caridina shrimp in there yet, but my plan is to get some orange-eyed blue tigers, and that's going to be where they live, and it's going to be awesome. Can't wait to show that off. No place around me sells anything worth a hoot, so I have to order off Facebook or order offline. And I don't want to do it now because there's like 6 feet of snow outside, and it's, you know, 20 below. So the joys of living in the frozen north. But so in this one too, nitrates don't go any higher than 20 to 40. These guys are thriving in here. You can see I've got 3 that are showing right now. 4 of these guys that are showing. They're all doing really well. Never had any issues with them. Got a saddle on that one on the log. I'm pretty sure one of these 2 was buried last time I checked, so that's awesome. And yeah, plants do really well. So this pump bottle is awesome. I'll tell you that. So anything you get in a pump bottle is awesome. The reason I get the bigger one is because this is a lot cheaper. It's still not very cheap, but you get the point. Hold on one sec. So this one isn't any cheaper, like I was saying, but so I bought this one first. This is about 28 bucks on Amazon. Let's see, what is this? 16.9 ounces, 500 milliliters. This is 2,000 milliliters, so one of these is $27. Two of them would be $50 something, 54, 55, somewhere in there. This one is 2,000 milliliters, which is 4 times the amount of this one. This one is $52. So if you bought 2 of these, you should have just bought one of these. But I will say, buying this one first, because that'll last you a few months before you have to go any higher, or before you have to add any to it. So what I do is I use this big one to fill up the little one. Duh. You know, same thing with this Flourish Excel. If you look down here, I've got the giant jug of Flourish Excel. Same thing goes for this stuff. You know, this is 2 liters, and this is, I don't even know, 100 milliliters. So this one came in a little kit. Same thing with this iron. I think there was some regular Flourish in that kit too, and some root tabs. So I bought those. I use these small ones. I fill them up from the bigger bottles. Even the iron is back there. I still have Flourish. I don't have any tanks right now that I use it in, but it's still nice to have. So if you're starting a tank up or whatever, the reason I don't use it is because it has copper in it, and you know, shrimp and copper don't mix, so I don't use it in any shrimp tank or any tank that I'm gonna use for shrimp, just to, you know, not build up any copper in the system. So that's that. And like I said, thriving plants, these are all new, so everything in this tank is less than 2 months old. You know, all of these little crypts came in as little tiny baby plants, like this one that I stuck down there, just small plants. These ones came in as 5 stems, and I've grown it to like a bunch of different tanks, you know, Ludwigia. The moss, same thing. And then this Hydra has been kind of slow growing for me, but it looks like it's finally starting to take off. Same thing with the wisteria. The wisteria in the back there took a long time to convert. So I got it. It was, you know, obviously immersed grown, so grown out of the water. I put it in here. It's taken about a month, I think, 2 or 3 weeks at least, for it to convert. Now it's finally starting to go. I've got another little piece in here. It's nice and converted now. It's starting to grow a nice stem. All that stuff. And same thing with this. The Bacopa has been really slow. This Bacopa Carolinia, very slow growing in my opinion. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but like I said, fertilizing, got lots of light on it. It's starting to come up, I guess. And then this AR cardinalis, Ultraranthia Reinicii cardinalis. That stuff is doing really well. I got one little plant, and it separated into like 4 parts. So I got those in a couple of different tanks, just trying it out. What else? What else? Oh, moss. So all of this moss too came from one individual small piece that I got in a bag with some shrimp that I bought, and I've grown that out to that nice piece there. There's a nice piece down there against the rock. I got all this that's growing on the driftwood here and kind of growing everywhere. I keep finding it everywhere. It kind of floats around. And then nice little chunk on this driftwood, and then I tucked a few pieces down in here to try to overgrow on these rocks to cover up the shrimp that I stuck in here. So that's my fertilizer. That's what I do. You might do something different. Maybe it works for you. I find this to be easy and mindless almost. I keep track every day of what I dose, and I always keep so I write everything down that I do in a day, and then I'll transfer it over to individual books for the aquariums. So once I've transferred it over from this page, I stick the back page. I stick the page to the back, write it in the notebook here. That way I've known if I did iron one day, then I got to do potassium the next day. If I've done all of my fertilizing and stuff, then it's all written down here. I do it as soon as I dose it. I write it down because otherwise I'll forget, and then I'll be like, oh, did I dose today? Did I not dose today? I don't know. Let's dose again. You know, and you don't want to get into that habit. So I recommend writing everything down. What you feed them, what you've done in the tank, whether a heater died. So like this heater right here was in this tank. I noticed today when I got down here it was 71 degrees in here, and I usually don't trust these, but then I checked the glass one too, and it's down around 70 as well. So that heater died, which is just a cheap one off of Amazon. I would not recommend those. So if you see them, they're cheap, yeah. They come with these things too. Don't buy them. I have them in like 4 tanks and I've had nothing but issues. This is my oldest heater. I dug it out of a box somewhere, so I shoved that in here. It seems to be bringing the temperature up slowly. So right now it was at 71.3 when I came down here. Now it's at 72.2, so it's starting to come up. We've gone up 1 degree in about a half an hour, so I think that's going to be okay for these guys. Because there's some baby shrimp in here. There's tons of guppy fry. So, I don't know, I'm getting off track here. Fertilizers, there you go. That's what I use. You want to use it? Go ahead. If you kill your stuff, don't blame me. You got to test it yourself. So get one thing, try it out. If you're not seeing any improvement, try another additive. If that's still not helping, try another one. If you're getting too much algae, cut your light time. Use some Excel if you want. I spot treat with hydrogen peroxide sometimes. Those are all things you need to try out on your own. Okay, I think I touched on everything I wanted to. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.